Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Uber Gear. On today's episode, we're going to be changing the starter motor on a 2007 Honda Accord with a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder in it. We'll get into it in a second. This is not exactly the easiest job ever, but first thing we're going to do is disconnect the battery, the negative terminal in the battery, because we don't want to blow ourselves up if we're disconnecting our positive lead to our starter. And the next thing we're going to do is basically start removing the whole intake manifold. Yay! Alright, let's get started. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is remove our beauty cover here, this plastic cover. We've got two acorn nuts on there that are 10 millimeter. Just going to take them off. They're on there very tight. Let's take them off of here. Alright, so the first step I'm going to take in taking this off is just to get the intake plenum and this air box cover out of the way. We got four 8mm bolts. We got an electrical connector. We have a breather line here for the valve cover. We have another breather line here that has to come off, and then we got a band clamp down here we got to loosen in order to basically take this out of here. That'll get this out of the way. That'll give us some more room, basically be able to take the intake manifold off, and hopefully we can just take this half of the manifold off. We don't have to take the whole thing off. Looks like we can probably get away with that, but we'll see what happens. Alright, so I'll loosen these up. I'm going to pull this electrical connector here. This is the mass airflow sensor. It's kind of like embedded in here. The real thing that's blowing me out is that this is one of those zip tie clip things. So we got two of them holding this connector on. So we're going to have to deal with that in a second. Hopefully by just squeezing it together and popping it out. But I don't know why they would do that. That's kind of a jerk, to be honest. Anyway, so our airbox cover's off. Boy, what a pain in the neck to change. So I'm going to loosen up this, which is a very tiny little bolt. I think that's loose enough. Alright, yep, definitely loose enough. Okay. We might actually have to remove this. We might be able to just kind of set this and leave it like that. I think we're going to try that. See what happens. It'd be nice to get in here and take a look at the air cleaner. They sure don't make it easy. If I squeeze this connector, there we go. Alright, that one's out. And if I get it from this side and then the other side. There we go. Everything's in the way here. I think we're going to have to take this off. 1,000,000 10mm. This is what's nice about Honda. You know, you need a lot of sockets to work on a Honda. Let's get this out of here. everything in the way. What do I gotta do? Loosen this too? Why is it so hard to fucking change an air filter in one of these? I think it doesn't look like shit. Oh yeah, it kind of looks like shit. Okay, so we got our air box tucked out of the way over here. What we're going to do now is try and remove this first half of the intake manifold here. And I believe if we can just kind of tip him forward, we may have to deal with some electrical connections and a few other things here. But just to tip this thing forward, and then we can get access to the starter, because really what's blocking us is A, this, and B, the throttle body big time. So if we can just tip this guy forward, should be able to get this off, get it just enough access to it. You notice I'm working from the center out. There's only 5 bolts, so it's not a big deal, but you can see it opening, gaps opening up there, so that's good. Don't have to persuade it off. This should, in theory, come off of here. However, it looks like we may have some line issues preventing us from actually taking this out. This guy being one of them here, it's not long enough to allow us to pull it. You can see we're hitting a couple of things here. These are pulling taut, so we got to take this electrical connector off definitely to the throttle body. Alright, so this connector is going to come off. I think what I got to do, I don't want to have to buy a new throttle gasket, so I think I'm going to have to take these 2 hoses off of the throttle body. And then we may actually have to disconnect this bolt here that holds this harness on, so we can kind of fold that out of the way. Same with this guy. I'm taking these bolts out of here basically just so we can loosen up this whole wiring harness so that we're not impeded by it stretching. Take these out. I got 2 more, one here, and then where's the other one? Actually, no, that might be it actually. There's that one. So now you can see our wiring harness is pretty loose with the exception of this vacuum line. So we're gonna just gonna unhook this, pull this out. I'm gonna unhook this sensor here. Right. Here, we're gonna take this off. Try and be very careful here. Now they open up a little space behind it. We should be able to take the hose pliers and just kind of, yeah, there we go. Right, there's that one. I'm just going to take this one off too, just so there's no, you know, we're not fighting it basically. Let's put that one back there. Hopefully. Right. Oh no, it's bleeding. That was coolant.
Mm-hmm.
You have a plug?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so there's a support bracket underneath the intake manifold here. Basically inch the nut off of here so that I can take this, basically lift this stupid thing out of the way. It's in a very very inconvenient place. It'd probably be better to honestly get to this bolt from underneath the car and tightening it. I may just do that. There's a couple of...
Well,
Well, now it's on the floor. This should allow us to... Oh my god. Do I have to pull this whole piece out of here? I bet I'm gonna have to do that. Where's that damn thing anchored? Inside of the engine? Yeah. Of course. Let's not make it easy. Let's just make it impossible. Damn it, Honda. You're supposed to be the good car company. There's another bolt on the side of the engine here. Here's the bracket. It's holding this cable connection, right? That's where it's attached to the intake manifold. And I'm pretty sure that this wire leads to the starter behind it here. So if you reach in there, it's basically going in there. Alright, so now you can see with that bracket removed, or loosened, basically dropped down. See our intake is nice and loose here. So, in theory, my theory is not correct. This has got to go, and this little vacuum guy's got to go. And that's a shrunk-on line, so yeah. Anyway, we'll loosen this. You're probably asking yourself, man, this car looks great. That's because it is. It only has 50,000 miles on it.
60,000.
Well, 60,000, whatever. Still, it's got no miles on it for a 2007 Honda. It's too bad the starter motor's dying. So that's there. This is off. Okay. Maybe, just maybe. Nope, not enough access. So, alright, so I'm going to gently, very gently pry on this vacuum hose. Because we don't want to break it. Just take your time with these. No reason to go fast. There we go. Okay. It's out of the way now. I think we've gotten everything off so that we don't... Yeah. Okay. Now we should be able to just pull it out of here. There we go. Still looks pretty shiny. You can see the build-up in here. What we might want to do is, and we won't be able to do it, but if we were doing any other maintenance, we'd want to, if we had a gasket for this, we'd want to take this off and just check behind the throttle body and clean it. This looks pretty good right now, but you can see there's a lot of PCV oil buildup in here, which is typical for modern cars. So we're going to put that over here in a nice safe spot. Now, I shall direct your attention to the starter motor. Okay, so there's a couple of things we got to do to get access to the bolts that hold the starter motor in. The front one, as you can see, it's pretty easy to access. Not a bad time. The rear one is back here on the end of this extension. Big long bolt. It's definitely a very custom bolt, so God help you if you break that. But what we're going to do first is actually take this harness out of the way here, so we can get much easier access to that without, like, you know, having to finagle and do some weird stuff. So we have our solenoid connector here, right? That just comes off easy. Now there's a rubber seal here on top of the negative or the positive terminal to the starter, our battery feed to the starter. I'm going to try and get this off of here without screwing it up. But, alright, there we go. And you see it looks like, this looks brand new. What we're going to do, just as a test, there is still some heat in the engine here. I'm going to set this on ohms, and we're just going to test back through the cable to the positive side of the battery here to make sure that we don't have a cable problem. If I tap onto this, see, I get 0.1 ohm, which means I have very little resistance in this line all the way back to the battery. So we know our cable's not the problem. Only problem here is that you can't test that without taking the intake manifold off. Anyway, that looks also like a 12 millimeter, so which again, this cooling pipe is like right in the way of everything. So perhaps it's not going to fit. See that? Because it's recessed. So I think we're going to have to forego that and just stuff a wrench in the back of it to loosen the bolts, pull the thing forward, and then take this off. Because I don't think we're going to get it. I can't get anything in there. So
Right.
anyway, let me squeeze this guy here. There we go. Okay. So that's loose. To make this easier, I'm going to take this out. Oh! Just trying to make myself more easier access so that we don't have to fight things on the way out. But we'll find out, right? So. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. That's welded to that? Why? Oh, alright, so that just slides out. So that was pointless. Didn't have to do that. Thanks a lot. Just put that back. Alright. Okay. So now, I'm going to try and get something on this bolt. And actually, I'll probably try and get something on the back bolt here first. Alright, what I do not, under any circumstances, want to do is put any pressure on these lines. Because this is plastic. So, if we do that, we're going to have a very bad time. So, we're going to try. And I may need to get some sort of bar of cheating. Let's loosen this. Sucks because you gotta like lift. Okay. Now, if you want to see a real crazy bolt, this thing is a really crazy bolt. I have never seen anything quite like these. Check that bolt out right there. Custom or what? I'm gonna loosen up this guy. Stick this on the end of this. May end up getting screwed here, but boy, this is a long bolt. There we go. There it is. Alright, so now I need the 12 millimeter. Should be this. Alright, there we go. That's all. That's all. Our tools somewhere. So, extract the patient. Still the original Honda Mitsuda starter. Alright, so first things first, let's stick our cable on. this too tight, but we want to make it so it's not going to come off. Alright, there we go. Okay, so I'm just going to slip this over that while we're here. Well, it's easy to get to. So here's our cover. Looking good. Now jam this guy in here. Oh, you gotta give me this bolt first. This absolutely shitty bolt first. Yeah, can I have the other bolt? Let me just get that in there so it centers it. Lift that up, that'll be a lot easier. Alright, so we've got our connector loom clipped into the bracket here. We're going to go ahead and connect our solenoid wire. Okay. There we go. Alright, now we're going to have the arduous task of reversing the whole process we just did. Now that everything's back in place here, next step is to go to the auto parts store and get a new one of these gaskets because we didn't really think we'd need it. And we're going to clean the surface off here with some, Scotch-Brite and some brake clean, and we'll clean out these intake runner tubes a little bit here because there is some buildup. Yeah, we need a new one of these gaskets. We'll be back. Alright, so we have our nice new gasket here. Cleaned up all the cruft off the manifold. Alright, that's definitely not how that goes. Let's try this way instead. There we go. That's how it's supposed to go on. There's our intake manifold. Oops. Okay. Alright. I need some nuts. So we're torquing up the intake manifold here. The internet says 16 foot-pounds. It seems a little bit loose to me. I feel like it should be something like 25, but this is why we should have a service manual for these cars. So now we're going to go ahead and hook up our various vacuum lines and connectors and everything. We got this little guy here. Just going to slide him on. This one doesn't have a clamp. It just fits all the way on there. Make sure these are out of the way. Clipped in nicely. Clip him to there. Now we got a couple of bolts we have to put back on this side of the engine. One of them being this bracket bolt here that will hold this vacuum line. Next thing I'm going to do is try and put this bottom intake manifold brace back in. There's a stud that sticks out here. We got to loop that through our stud on this side. If you can hand me the bolt, down in here. Put this bolt in here. Gotta get it started. There we go. Got it. I'm not going to tighten this until I have this one tight on the top. Okay. Before I tighten that, let me put the nut on it. Underneath here. Yeah, there we go. Oh yeah, there it is. And the reason why I need to tighten this bracket up first is I have to cinch it up to the manifold and then tighten it on the bottom, because there's a little bit of a, the hole in the bottom is an oval, so it can be adjusted. So I want to make sure that, you know, this thing's actually braced properly. Try to get this on here as far as I can with my finger. There we go. Under here. Shove this up the car's butt. Does work. Alright, let's go back down here. Get this guy up. That should be the end of that chapter. Oh no. Slipped off. Alright. That's good. Gotta go back to our hooking up of lines here. Now, if you have the bolts for this stuff, this one should go here. This is the one with the big shoulder on it. Fits through this connector. What else you got? Okay, so this guy, this one will go on here. And then where's this? Oh, right here. There's the other one. Okay, fits on there. That's the smaller one?
They're both kind of the same.
Let's get our 10mm socket out. Okay. Okay. That's good. Now we're going to hook up our vacuum line here. This is for your brake booster. Just set our clip in place here. Come on. Okay. Set that in the clip here. Okay, now we got another vacuum hose here. This guy, this clip is a little bit tricky. You just gotta squeeze it together, hold it like that, and then you can get the vacuum line on it. It's not the best design. Alright, so the next thing we got are coolant lines. This line is pretty empty. This line actually has coolant in it, so I'm going to connect this one first, and then this guy. So slide this dude. Better pliers for this. Sit right about there. Okay. Now the next one is going to be a little bit of a pull it and stuff. So there we go. Oops. This guy up here. Okay. Our coolant lines are in. Let's connect our throttle body blade connector here. Okay. Hook up this guy over here. Okay. What are we missing? Anything?
Doesn't look like it.
Alright, cool. Alright, so we have our nice new air filter here. Gonna drop them in place. Okay, now we gotta get this guy on. So, give it a twist and rotate here. Try and so that guy's gotta go on there like this. Airbox is in at least. That helps. Hook the connector back up. And then we gotta put these little clips in place over here. So we'll put this guy in. We'll put this guy in. We'll hook up our electrical connector. I'm gonna fight with this for a few minutes. This is awful. There we go. Alright, see, bottom's out on that ledge there. Perfect. This has got to get put back in because I bumped that a little bit. This guy goes over here. I got it. That's fine. Alright, didn't loosen any other clamps, right? Everything else looks good. That guy's on. These guys are clipped in. This dude's fine. He's on there. This is clipped in. Okay. Now we can tighten this so we can actually get to it. Alright, let's tighten up these 8mm bolts for the airbox. Best thing is the battery cable. Alright, so now we're going to put our battery hold down in place. Alright, that's nice and tight. The final thing, hooking up the battery. Alright, there we go. Alright, so now, finishing touch here, basically just putting the beauty cover back on. Not much else to do here. Stick that under there. Okay. Boom. And these two little acorn nuts. Snug these up. Don't need to be real tight. Good. And we're good. Alright, so that's how you change the starter motor on your 2007 Honda Accord, or really any Honda equipped with a 2.4 liter IV Tech engine. So now all we got left to do is test it. Let's see. As you can see, it works. So that'll wrap up this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Please give us a like or subscribe if you like our channel. Thank you very much. Bye.
And as always, do what you feel. Keep both feet on that wheel. You don't have to go home, but you can definitely watch our next video. So till next time, kids.